Hello, everyone. Welcome to the School of Animation and Visual Effects and our panel discussion. I'm very honored to be speaking today with the filmmakers, the crew, and all the people behind the 24th. The 24th is the incredible story, based on true events, of the all-black 24th United States Infantry Regiment and the Houston Riot of 1917. Directed and co-written by Academy Award winner Kevin Willmott, co-written and starring Trai Byers, both of whom are here today. And we're also speaking to cinematographer Brett Pawlac, producers Alexandra Milchin, Patrick Peach and Tony Grazia, as well as our own faculty and StudioX leaders, Catherine Tate and Jason Patnode, and students who are happily, they're now alumni, and they are Michael Rich, Ivy Yishwan. We may have Adam Liu joining with us in a moment. I want to go ahead and start. I mean, everyone should go check this movie out. It is incredible. And it is based on real events. It's stuff that people probably have not heard about. Even though it's a hugely important historical moment, it's not something that's taught in school. Maybe some people heard about it in a book or a podcast, but they probably had to go out of their way to find out about this. So this is a really important historical film, historical fiction and based on true events. Kevin, I wanted to start with you. I have to say, when I was in school, your early films really kind of helped open my mind up because your work is so historically conscious, socially conscious. What was really important to you in taking this piece of history and making sure that you translated it to a dramatic story?
Well, a lot of things you really just mentioned, really. I think the fact that it's such an unknown piece of our history was always very important to me. I really came about finding the story from the only real photograph of the trial, and we show that photograph at the end of the film. And when I saw that photograph, it just kind of blew me away. There's 63 Black soldiers there, all in a group, and white soldiers are guarding them with, rifles with fixed bayonets. And the caption said the largest murder trial in American history, and I'd never heard anything about it before, and no one that I asked knew anything about it either. And it was, it's just, so amazing that the largest murder trial in American history that none of us know anything about. It's like you can't make that stuff up, really. And then when you look closely at the photograph, especially in a few years, kind of, then when things became digital and you can look closely at things, and you saw the men's faces. And I happened to grow up in a town adjacent to Fort Riley, called a little small town in Kansas called Junction City. And the Buffalo soldiers were stationed there, and these guys were Buffalo soldiers. The men of the 24th were Buffalo soldiers. And so when you look at the faces of these men, these were guys I really felt like I knew. These were guys I felt like I really grew up with, really, in many ways, in my neighborhood. So all of it made it very real to me. And then when I learned the details about the story, made me want to tell it even more. And so it always spoke directly to me from really just discovering that it was a real event.
So I can pose this to everyone on the panel as well. Staying true to Kevin's vision, for everyone, like, what are the things you have to keep in mind to tell a story that is obviously has fictionalized elements and real life elements, but it's a history that it has been obscured, kind of hidden away from us? Anybody can speak to this.
Well, I think one of the big things, that we talked about and just throughout was accountability. This, as obscure as the story is, there's also, I guess, on both sides of the coin, people are doing something against one another. You know what I mean? Whether it's retaliation or whether it's just aggravation, there's still a similar, in this particular incident in history, there's a similar action towards one another. And that seemed really, it seemed like something that was very important to remember, a good reference point as to where, you know, we've gone in history from that point to the civil rights movement all the way to now. You know, we were really trying to find elements of the story that were still, that had a bit of modern connotation as well, to not only tell the story of history, but to tell the story of us, of identity that still, you know, reads true as for today.
Actually, that leads right into my next question, which is for you, Trai, but anybody else also can speak to it, which is you stepped into the past. Like, you had to take on a role and step onto a set and really immerse yourself in this very difficult, you know, intense, what some of these scenes are just so heart-wrenching and so intense. You know, how do you kind of decompress from that immersion? Like, how do you kind of, you know, how does that impact your process?
Well, the good thing is, Kevin Willmott allowed me to help him write on the screenplay, so I knew where we were going before we, you know, before we got boots to the ground. And it just, I mean, first of all, history, especially Black history, is very important to me, and to get the opportunity to tell the story of these soldiers that are forgotten, largely. It was just an honor. And the more time I had, the more time I had to invest, the more time I had to, you know, dig deeper into, you know, who outside of the historical context of the story, who Boston was, you know, how close Boston was to me, and to try and again find the line between past and present. So it was a lot of digging. It was, you know, heart-wrenching at times for me, particularly seeing the men, you know, singing over there, knowing that they would never get over there. You know, moments like those really stand out to me, but it was the responsibility, I think, that kept us all going. And how I decompressed, just to answer, when it was over, I went to Ireland. I drank some Guinness, man. That's what I did.
Get out of the country.
Watch
for a
some
little
plays.
while.
Yeah.
Anybody else? I mean, we had a lot of people kind of go on set, look at, you know, and even on our team. Did anybody kind of have any thoughts on stepping into that world and your responsibility and your process as part of that?
Well, I just want to say quickly, I'd love for other people to talk about it too, that you know, working with Trai on the script, and then, you know, being on the set, I think we had a really kind of joyous set, you know. You know, Brett was such a great DP, and everybody just, you know, Pat and Tony, you know, everybody just created a world for us to really, I think, give you the freedom and to you know, do your thing, and to really, you know, express yourself, and go to those ugly places, go to those bad places, with the freedom to know that you can leave them afterwards. You know, I think that's a big part of telling, you know, a really tough story, is you don't want to go there and then have to stay there. You know, you want to feel like you can leave, you know, as much as you can afterwards, and that has a lot to do with the set you're on. I think that the vibe of the set, and you know, everybody, I think, just really worked incredibly well together, and I think we all got along really well. And that was I think a big part of it. And you know, Brett specifically, I just have to shout out my brother here. I mean, Brett was such a great with in terms of moving things forward really fast, and we had a really tight schedule. And you know, when you have problems like that, those things kind of drift down and affect everything else. And so you know, I think it just really came together incredibly well, and hopefully it gave people the freedom to really do their thing.
There was also accuracy on everything too, Kevin. Like when I was there, wandering around on the set, because I had to take a bunch of reference photos. So I would go to areas of the set when the crew wasn't there, like Tent City, when no one's in there. Completely accurate. You know, it's just like wandering around and there being the only person in there. You're totally in that time period. And that was not something you see on most movie sets, right? So that was really nice. That was cool.
No doubt about it. We had a great production designer, and that was a big part of, when you have to move quickly. I think, especially when you're on a fairly limited budget, if you don't have the world, if the world isn't right, you can't move so quickly, really.
Yep, that is absolutely right.
And they just did a great job of giving us the freedom. That detail and accuracy, I think everybody involved in the film really cared a great deal about that. And they really brought their A game to it. I mean, the wardrobe and everything was just so very specific. And I think we all kind of relished the details of it all, which I think that's the fun thing about making a film like this, is you gotta kind of relish the details of it all.
Yeah.
Well, I know, Kevin, you've described yourself as a history geek. I feel like a fellow history geek as well. I use this from my bookcase. I did actually have a question for Brett, specifically for the cinematography. I mean, one thing I found really impressive about this film, even like visceral at times, was how there are different genre elements blended into it. And it's a historical film. It is a war film, even though it's on American soil. It's got horror elements. It's got some romance elements. I know some of those things in the script Trai came and worked on, like some of the storylines too. So, but Brett, how do you incorporate all these different genre elements together and to tell this historical story?
I tend to. I mean, I don't really look at it as different genres. I mean, obviously there are different things within any script that has different types of genres, but I kind of think of it as one whole thing. It's really just the script that dictates kind of what we're going for and what you're trying to do with it. I mean, one thing that really early on, when I was right before I jumped on board, when I discussed with Trai, him and Kevin really had this perspective on it. Like, they really just wanted to feel like from the beginning to the end, it just feels like a powder keg. It just feels like it builds the whole time. And that was basically the whole metaphor for my decision making. Like, anything that I was doing, transitioning through the script, was sort of that idea. So, I just try to, in a blanket, it obviously is a period film, and it's a war film, and it all, like you said, has all these little other genres in it. But, as a whole, it's kind of one thing. Really, the subtext of the scenes really dictate those decisions and then, again, it felt like the movie goes from hot day, desert, Texas heat to night, pouring rain. So it was in the script. I just really had to kind of follow the dots. I really didn't. It was all in there, already. So it was a lot of. So basically, the decisions are made from the script, from what's on the page.
Just every aspect of production of this had to come together, right? Obviously, the story is incredible. Like, you bringing all these different. I just love how the lighting, even like you said, it changed day to night, and then definitely the more romantic scenes, as opposed to anything else in the movie, has to be done a certain way. I know the producers, and we introduced them, but maybe you can all introduce yourselves as you answer this. You have some action films in your backgrounds. I went and looked it up, and there definitely were action sequences in this film. And so for a different kind of approach, but they were still a lot of action. So I know you had to shoot was it 18 days?
Yes.
How do you produce a movie with so much action in 18 days? It's so impressive.
It was 19 days.
So why don't you go ahead and start us off?
How to compress that kind of thing, all the all that into 19 days? Well, it's all in the pre-production and the cooperation of the team, and mainly Kevin. Kevin has the burden of trying to make that work within the schedule, and he was fantastically collaborative in that manner. He made it work on every occasion. You know, there was so many elements that had to come together in the right way. We had a super short prep, so we were really rushing just to get our tent city built in time, and everybody was so afraid we weren't going to have tents on time, but we made it. But you know, by the skin of our teeth, with people sewing fabric all through the weekends, and you know, the uniforms had to come from all over the place. Some came from Europe, and some came from collectors, and some came from rental houses, and we had to wait for those to all get in, and they got in right in the nick of time. You know, when you have a super short prep, which is what we had, to collect all the right props, all the right, you know, vintage props, and all the right vehicles, all those things, the wagons, all that stuff. You know, that's how good our team was. They were able to collect all that stuff in such a short period of time, and bring it to us and have it when we needed it. We had a really great group of experts, our consultants, our history consultants, our military consultants, and they didn't like the smallest detail to be off, you know, and we would shoot something that might not be right. We have to reshoot it, because if they were wearing the wrong uniform or something like that, the wrong hat or the wrong band on their hat, it was that detailed. They were really serious about it. There were guys, Tony found both of them. He was brilliant. Brought in the guy who brought most of our vehicles in, and it was a big team effort. Everyone loved the project so much and felt so much passion for getting it on the screen. Everyone that joined the team was saying how proud they were to be on the movie and glad to be there, and that kind of energy, collective energy, is what made it happen. And then our set was, we had a great assistant director team, and our set we ran really smooth. We had great days. We shot everything we needed to shoot, and we shot more, you know, and it's great. You know, we shot the hell out of it. I'm cleaning it up for you guys, but we shot the hell out of it. And
that's the famous Tony line.
Tony and Jason went off and shot all the visual effects plates and elements, and they were fantastic. And we were able to those really came in handy, as you guys know. And then Tony shot a lot of the second unit. We for a little movie, we had a lot going on, and we pulled it off.
Yeah, and the challenge is the period, well, and also the performances. The acting was there, it was on the page, and then the acting was there. And then for us to get, as Pat was saying, the uniforms. But on a small schedule, on a small budget, it's so hard. It really is, to keep that authenticity. But we would have the main unit, and we'd shoot on the side. So whenever, even the night stuff that we did, all that stuff with the gun shooting, the A unit was right there, right next to us, and we grab the extras and shoot and break windows and make a lot of noise.
Yeah.
So, but there's an energy on a movie like this that you don't get I'm on probably the biggest movie right now that's shooting in the world, and it's not that camaraderie, the closeness, and the passion. Everybody on our crew really wanted to be there. There was nobody. A lot of problems. There wasn't a lot of money. People weren't making a lot of money. They were there because they wanted to tell the story, and to really tell it the correct way. And we had a great general right there. Kevin was he knew when he didn't want to compromise. Like, for instance, the scene in the courtroom. It was tough to find that. We finally found it. It was on the second floor, which was very interesting. But he knew how to say, okay, we're going to shoot this here, and then we could shoot that there, and stay. But doing small movies, you have to stay in a much more smaller footprint, and not move the company, and not move the circus, and be very cost-effective time-wise. But I got to say, it was one of my greatest experiences in my whole career. it all gelled together. It was very tough in the beginning because we didn't even know Trai and Kevin that well, Pat and I. And, you know, we got on the ground. We had 6 weeks to prep the movie and get all the uniforms, get all that stuff. It was, but it was great.
Tony and Pat, who found the base where the majority of the shooting took place? Because that was just a gem. That place was amazing.
Our location manager. Well, actually, one of our scouts who turned out to be one of our drivers, Carl Golden, found it. He was the one that found it. And yeah, it was an abandoned airfield. It was an abandoned airfield. And I can tell you this, I think that what I noticed when I watched the movie, I felt that Trai, his character owned that. He in every scene, you know, I saw him just taking it in and sort of like really being in the moment there. It was really interesting. Everybody else followed suit. All the rest of the cast followed suit with him. It was a tremendous thing once we started shooting. How they all, every one of them, their performances were just outstanding.
It's nothing like being out in the open, not on the sound stage, but in nature, to really, you know, hone the performance and just feel the earth, feel the footsteps that were on, you know, that ground before you, and to literally conjure those things, conjure those spirits, and use the world, use the elements to, you know, perform. And it didn't hurt that it was scorching hot as well. You know what I mean? I mean, think about it. Who would have thought that North Carolina had anything on Houston? But my Lord. Yeah. So I can't take all the credit. Yeah, I appreciate all of that, but you know, I think Mother Nature helped us a lot too.
Well, yeah, I just want to say real quick too that you know, Pat mentioned the acting and Trai and you know, everybody involved. I mean, you know, if the acting isn't great and quick and strong, and you know, and that screws your schedule up too. I mean, you know, I never had to worry about any of the actors. You know, it was like I just got to watch them be the characters, and it was, and you know, I heard Robert Altman say one time that directing is really casting, and you know, you cast the right people, and then you just kind of get out of the way, and that's what I was able to do with the film, was really kind of, you know, get out of the way, and they just did their thing. I didn't have to give, you know, the main notes I would have to give people were like, you know, correcting them about a period thing or something, you know. I didn't tell anybody how to act, because that's what's great about when you got great actors.
It definitely struck me. I mean, I didn't actually have a lot of questions for the acting, because it is just so perfect. Like, but I did have one, and that's, so for you, Trai, but you already kind of started to talk about it a little bit. You said you were able to help prepare more because you did co-write the script. What was that like as opposed to other jobs? Like, is it more helpful? Are there things that are more difficult? What are the things you have to put in your head when you co-wrote something and now you step into it?
I mean, I did one thing at a time. Writing is so fulfilling for me, and to be able to write with Kevin, who was my screenwriting teacher. I mean, you know, he took me to school again. Yeah. But you know what? That's what teachers are for. And you know, he's such a master at that craft. So it was refreshing. I was shooting Empire at the time, and I remember coming, just, you know, taking leave from there, leaving that world, that character of Andre Lyon, and going into 1917. I mean, it was so refreshing and heartbreaking, you know, artistically something different, but historically something so tragic, and the fact that it's not well known. You know, that I think that process was enough to keep my attention. And then, you know, when it came time to act, and, you know, try and put that away. And it was really helpful to have you know, not only a great director, but a co-writer in Kevin that, you know, would make the changes that needed to be made. And I didn't necessarily have to leave the role of Boston often to help problem solve, you know what I mean? Because he had the reins on that. So yeah, I did one thing at a time, and you know, I felt like it serviced me to be able to wear different hats, but know when, you know, that particular position was needed. And it also, you know, helped with the performance, because I had years of prep. You know.
Do you see more writing in your future?
Absolutely. As often, listen, as many opportunities as I get to write, and many people tell me yes, I'll write until I'm done. Yeah.
It was not as easy as anybody makes it sound, guys. I will tell nothing but the truth. It was a miracle, and those guys pulled a miracle. We had no time, no money, and really no time. And this prep was done so fast. And if it wasn't for Kevin and Trai, who were not only created this world in an incredible script, but willing to adjust at all time, because we had to adjust for the terrain, for what was available to us, and really make a miracle. And if it wasn't for the crew and all the cast that came on purely out of love, because until the last minute, we didn't even know if we had financing. And we started prepping, really hoping everything will come together. And we had someone called Jordan Fudge who put it together. And then Pat and Tony put together this incredible crew, the tax credit. I mean, there's so much behind movies, behind the screen that has to be put together. It's a perfect storm. And if it doesn't happen exactly right on time and perfectly, it just can't happen. From the bone to, really a crazy schedule. And I'm going to say this because you guys are all on. Pat and Tony was like, don't worry, we'll get the VFX. It'll look great. And we were terrified. We were like, there's no way. There is no way they can deliver that many shots.
We're going to use students.
There's no way. And we kept seeing different students showing up. And it was terrifying to me, at least. And it was amazing because everybody was so disciplined, so passionate, so organized. I've never seen shot list respected the way they were. I've never seen a crew move so fast, so determined. It was really beautiful. And we were not, we were in North Carolina making this movie, which is also quite surprising. And it was very powerful in so many ways. So it will stay with me forever. It's from our composer, really everybody who came on came because of a passionate need to make this movie. And I think that's why it worked. I really do.
Alexandra,
I was just going to say real quick, Alexandra,
yeah, go ahead.
If I could real quick, Alexandra and Trai and I, it was Alexandra that from the very early on, she loved what we were trying to do, and we have to give her the credit she deserves. I mean, we wouldn't be here talking to you now with Alexandra. So thank you. I don't we never
thank you, Kevin.
Like we should have, but thank you, Alexandra.
Alexandra, you anticipated my next question, or my next topic, which is the visual effects. We're here at the School of Visual Effects Animation. So you had Jason on set. I know Catherine visited the set, and you had students on set. So you told me a little bit about how there's maybe some trepidation about that. But Jason and some of you, tell me about that experience of being like that working relationship. How did you prove yourselves?
Catherine, you want to answer first? Go ahead. Is Catherine still there? Can she hear?
You're muted, Catherine.
I'm sorry. Well, we had worked with Pat and Tony before, and this is a program the StudioX program that's been around for over 10 years. I saw it as something, my mission statement was to connect students with filmmakers, independent filmmakers that needed our help, so that we could have sort of a barter system of, the students don't have to act or shoot or do all the things that they're not coming to learn. They're coming to learn a specific craft. So we could actually give them professional footage and professionally shot footage that is of high quality, and they can focus on what they do. So I guess I would say that, you know, the organization of the filmmakers, of you guys, and, you know, the fact that we were able to go on set and made the experience a lot more smooth. And I would say the students have so much passion for the work, and it just works. I still am absolutely amazed every time we do a film and how we produce this professional level work out of students. And, you know, we have a formula, I think, that works really well. So and being involved from the very beginning, you know, before we even shot, I went there actually for location scouting, and it was brilliant because I was able to actually get context and ahead of time. And then when Jason was on set, I felt like we were really aligned and worked as efficiently as we possibly could. And having the students on set is such an incredible experience for them, because they never would get an opportunity to be on such a professional operation, you know, and actually get a perspective from the production point of view rather than just the post-production point of view.
And by the way, I would just say, for the fun, again, the scary part, the ones who started are not the ones who finished, because, as Pat suddenly told me, they had graduated. And that was another panic moment. We're like, what?
I don't understand how we I mean, this is always a problem, and it's actually, we're not like a studio, because we have all these challenges and that we have to deal with, like that, like having a rolling crew. So I think we are able to do it because that's how we always have to operate. And it's challenging because, but it's also part of the learning experience, because in post-production, you know, sometimes you have to pass off work to other artists, and that's part of the learning experience of it. So being able to handle all the things that could possibly happen and have another artist pick it up, you know, we have to be super efficient in the way we approach it. Our classes, it's a class-based studio. So there are mentors, and we have several classes in different disciplines, and we're there right to the end, and we're delivering work, you know, right there with them. And we're making sure that it's, you know, getting the stamp of approval in terms of how professional it is. So, you know, it's not easy. I mean, I think Jason and I and Sasha, who's not, I don't know if she's here or not, but she's our supervising producer. Yeah. You know, hey, we put a lot of extra time and passion. I'm the director of the department as well. So I have I have many other hats to wear, as does everyone else. We all teach regular classes too, and deal with MFA, you know, graduate students and undergrad. And so but you know, I think that we're kind of, I would say, we're guardians of this program, and we built it from the ground up. And so, you know, we feel that, you know, with the passion of the students together, we're really in alignment, and we just make it work however we can. And
they did incredible work, incredible, seamless, and so kind, and so available to all of us always. So thank you so much. Incredible.
Yeah, you know,
it was fun.
I have to say that the story that you know, when we first started talking about using the school, and we had so many detailed effects. And Pat, we're going to start laughing here in a minute, I know. There were so many detailed effects that was required, because even with finding, you know, great location and having, you know, a lot of good period stuff, there were just so many things that were out of period. And that's the thing that I think we all were kind of just paranoid, you know, frightened to death about. You know, can we correct all of these things that are going to be out of period? And most of them were small things. I mean, we worked really hard to try to find locations that the big things were right, but there were so many wires and this, and, you know, the cars, and, you know, all the kind of stuff that you know, that there's just 1,000 of those things. And so, you know, and I'm a professor, and, you know, I work with students all the time too. And students can be really great, and students can let you down sometimes. And
yeah, we go through all that too.
But we never saw it, because I remember telling Kevin, And Kevin goes, I know students. I remember you saying that to me. And I said, no, this is different. These are graduate students, much different.
No, actually, we have undergrads. We have undergrads too. But
I know that I
think
told him that though.
We have Ivy and Michael. Maybe you guys can talk about what your experience was like and what challenges you faced.
Well, I mean, as a student, it's always great to be able to work on any film, something that wasn't just something you cooked up in a back room and that you put together in your garage. To be able to work on a real film is a treat. But, to work on a film of this caliber with this level of gravitas and this much potential to make a difference, that was a real career changing, almost a life changing opportunity. So I think at least for most of us that had the chance to work on the film, we were super excited. It was, you pushed your other classes. I'm sorry, I'm going to admit this, Catherine. You pushed your other classes out of the way wherever you could so that you could squeeze in a little more time to work on the film. It was scary though, as a student where you're learning a new skill and this is real world stuff. This is big time filmmaking, and to think you're looking at this shot and thinking, I'm supposed to do what and how, but luckily we had some great expert guides on our team there to kind of help us find the best path fast, so that we weren't trial and erroring our way all the way to the finish line. So we were grateful for that, but boy, what an exciting treat to be able to be a part of it, though.
Michael, I have to mention. Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just want to know, you were the lead compositor, so you did most of the tent shots. Were all the tent shots you?
I helped supervise the tent shots. The work I did was the opening sequence with the crane camera. Oh yeah, sure. On that nice windy day, that was exciting. Yeah. The camera shook an awful lot, but Kevin was talking about the need to recreate the detail or to remove, this shot to remove things that aren't supposed to be there. It can be tricky at times. So
there's a whole fence off to the left. That Catherine encouraged us to be on a shaky crane. She wanted to have a shaky shot so you guys could actually learn how to fix that.
Well, that was Catherine's
I'm not
fault.
joking. Incidentally, I promise I'm not joking. She said it'd be really great if it does move.
Well, we have a variety of students, and the students take the classes for several semesters sometimes. So we like to have a variety of complexity of the work. So, generally most shots aren't just locked off without camera move. So we like to get something really beefy for some of our senior students who need a little more complexity in the work. And so, it's funny with the lower budget films, the thing that's always apparent is that, we'll shoot it locked off and it'll be really easy, or it'll be much easier. And then I'm just thinking, well, we don't necessarily want that all the time. And we want to have shots that can really demonstrate the skills of our students to do complex work as well. Wow.
I mean, I'll say one thing to that note. At any point during anytime you start talking about VFX in anything, it's a slippery slope, because it can get really out of hand very quickly, and especially on something of this size, it being such a small film and such a fast schedule with period aspects to it that don't exist or can't be there. That list can pile really quickly, and it certainly did on this one as well. When you're standing there and you're actually looking and in the middle of the street, or it's funny talking about the airfield, like the airfield that we shot at, that was the tent city. You probably only see 25% of that actual location. We couldn't shoot a lot of it because a lot of it was used for actually just production purposes. and a lot of it, like the fence that you saw on the left of screen, and you know, that was all we could use of that little space of them entering for the very first shot of the film, like walking up, and that fence, like we couldn't even frame out that fence. It had to be sort of a VFX shot. And to the point of the the camera being up there on a crane, it wasn't even a crane. You know, we had to get a scissor lift to be able to accomplish that shot, to get that higher angle. And it's not perfect. Like, that's not the perfect ideal thing to get that shot on this budget, for, certainly, but also like on any budget, you're never going to have a perfect, unless you're on a green screen stage and every shot is very much about VFX. But a lot of times what you're doing, and what you go into in terms of VFX is helping fix a problem that wasn't anticipated. So to work with that sort of footage, I think is actually more real world than if every shot was locked off, to your point. Like, not every shot's gonna be locked off. If mostly 90% of the shots won't be locked off. They were never anticipated as being a VFX shot. So I think that having the ability to work with this real footage definitely is a huge help for learning, because it's a little more accurate to what you'll be walking into on any project, I feel like.
The crew was also like, when I got out there, the crew was very open for me, kind of mixing with everybody, like checking to make sure certain things could be removed if they had to be, or possibly even reframing some shots if there was some weird stuff that couldn't be removed. That was one of the great things about being out there is it was a smaller set, smaller crew, smaller budget, but everyone was very open to the VFX side, because sometimes you'll work on a movie and people just won't understand what that is, and won't understand that this stuff has to be passed off and moved down the line. So that made things a lot easier, a lot smoother in the transition too, for sure.
Hey, Ivy, did you want to mention something, Ivy, about your work on the film? Are you there?
Yes. Hi.
Hi.
My work is mostly like, for the tent shot, I expand the tent about like 8 to 10 tent in my shot. So that's most of my work. And then it's just really fun to like just try on different lighting and then try to make everything together. Yeah. So, and then I think it's my first film, really exciting to work on.
You did a great job. You did a great job.
Awesome.
And I remember many nights at about 11 o'clock in the evening, sending back and forth. Kevin and I were going back and forth, dictating to you guys about how to clean up certain things. And could you add more tents? Could you add more tents, please?
We kept adding tents, yes. I've got to say that I just want to thank all of you guys. I mean, it's a miracle what you guys did. It was just a mind-blowing, seamless look to the film. I mean, I knew it was going to be good. I knew, from the things I saw you guys doing for us, I saw it was going to be fine. But the final product was just, excellent. And I know how it works too, and you don't get to just sit there for 12 hours a day and do it like a job. You've got to do it when you can, and you're doing it in class, and you're jumping around and you're bouncing around, and so that's what makes it such a great and beautiful thing that you guys gave us for the film. I know it's not easy to do.
There were some big surprises too, like when Tony and I got out to the farm to shoot the Splinter Unit stuff. The farm had decided to pave that road and put a bunch of outhouses in the background.
I know.
We're just like, okay, that's a little extra stuff we have to take care of now.
And so much. Yep. Sorry, Alexandra.
No, I was going to say what was really amazing, and we've all worked on many big VFX movies, and you get a lot of time to prep it. And so producers, directors, VFX team know very well what they're getting into, and you know very well normally on set what's going to happen when you put a green screen. Everything was happening as we were shooting, and that's the miracle. And what you're talking about is really what's happening, which is very rare. There was an incredible generosity from all the VFX team, as well as everybody on set, to try to collaborate and to understand what Kevin wanted to do, what the resources were allowing us to do. We thought we were going to be able to make more tents than we did, to be honest. And the list kept growing to a point that was exponentially scary. And you not only delivered on time, on budget, beyond expectations, but it was the quality of the work, and specifically in period piece. And Brett is right, because already, Brett, you delivered a scope to the movie that was a miracle, and it was kept the consistency and the creative beauty and intensity, and it felt raw. But it was really, really beautiful on this movie to see how everybody worked together and found solutions as we were going, because it really, we were constantly adjusting to make the day. So it's all to Kevin and Trai. It starts with the script. So many times I had to go back to Kevin and thinking he was going to say no way. And every time he found solutions creatively, first in the script, and then the whole team found it on set, and that was incredible.
Well, the calmness too of Brett too, and Ed, like the controlled chaos that we had when we were doing the tents. You guys were shooting in the tent, in the main tent, and we were doing the crane stuff like a color form set. Jason and I were coordinating courses and cars and troops, and you guys are doing a scene, and you were like, walk over calmly. It was good. I remember Michael T standing there going, I see what you're doing. You guys are doing good, you know, because he's a director too. And he's like, it was pretty wild. It was like a controlled chaos, like an orchestra. It was a lot of fun those days when it worked like so well. It was fun. But
so, I think it was really helpful that you know, Michael and Catherine and, you know, that they came to the set. I think that was, you know, I think that just really helped them understand probably what we were trying to do. And so when you guys, you know, went back home, it wasn't, you know, some big mystery about how this production was going. I think that would really saved us, you know, and I know that Pat was the one that really kind of said we needed to do that, Pat and Tony, and I think that was the key to, you know, connecting the post-production, all that post-production work to the production itself, and I think that was really critical.
I also have to mention that the just being there and then watching the film just personally and just seeing all the locations that I went to with you.
Yes.
I don't know why it was just so wonderful to be part of that process from the beginning and see the finished product. And I just thought it was just a very special experience that I'm really glad I got to have. And it also let us know, okay, let's get started on the gate shot. We can do some prep and R&D while we're there. And then Jason's sending tent pieces over, and we're all just kind of like getting a head start, knowing that it's going to get really, really busy in a couple months. So we were able to do some of the complex R&D work ahead of time. And that was because you allowed us to be part of the process early.
And also the little details too, like even Jason, and this was even hindering production. We were doing muzzle flashes one morning and interrupting scene or afternoon. But I mean, all those little things are unique and they're perfect for what we were doing. And Jason shooting fabric, and I mean, he was in one of the buildings for days shooting little pieces that we would get him, you know, or whatever it was. And it was. I mean, it's fun. Those things are important.
And that's really the way it normally does work, is we have our visual effects team with us in prep and on the set. And I know that's not how you guys always work. And when we did The Architect a few years back, you didn't come to the set, and it was sort of like, we got to have you.
We did come to set.
Well, I meant,
before, you mean, before.
Yeah. It wasn't the same.
This was a lot more
prepping
intense, yeah.
And I knew that, plus you have the sessions, that you only work in session. And I was very concerned about getting you guys going in June as soon as possible on the main shots. And because I knew that it was going to jam up later. And you guys just, I still can't believe how well. And by the way, the fact that you only work in session, like I said earlier, it was 11 o'clock at night, many nights, approving shots, and people were responding. So I don't know how that fits into session.
Well, Sasha could probably speak to that.
You were totally available.
Sasha could speak to that, actually, because...
Pat, what happened to that cow that we ordered in that box?
It went back.
Oh, it went back. Okay.
I just wanted to mention...
It worked, though. It was funny. When it got there, it didn't look so good. Right, Trey? I remember you were looking at it going, that's the cow, and we put the horns on, and it looked pretty good.
Yeah.
It's an illusion.
I'm starting to see some questions popping up in the chat from our visitors. Are we going to wait for that, or do we want to?
Actually, I want to let people know there are a couple people who've asked questions, but if you guys want to start putting questions, I don't know where I'm pointing, in the chat, you go ahead, and then I will make sure to relay those at the end here. But I did have a question, because we started to go towards it, and it is, I mean, now we know how much energy and how demanding like the set was, like just on that timeline. But let me ask about post-production. So Sasha is here with us, and also Catherine can speak to this too. But what was the feeling with all the stuff you were getting so quickly and with these deadlines? And tell me about some of the stuff with post-production.
Yeah. So, well, one is that I know Pat and Tony from The Architect, so we have a really good working relationship, and they knew what us and Pat knows that I'm a straight shooter, and I'm very transparent, and I will tell them the ugly truth about production and what we can and can't do. And I hope that they appreciate that. And then Kevin, I know you were kind of, getting it probably, filtered from Pat. But I think one of the biggest things that is probably the single most important thing about this film for us is that we knew from the beginning, Kevin, that this was an important film, and Trai too. We knew that this wasn't going to be an important film, and it's funny thinking where we are now at how really important it is. And so we really wanted to do our best, but I also needed to be really honest with kind of what we can and can't do. And so I know we started out with probably like 150 shots, and you guys wanted it in like, I don't know, 10 weeks. And I was like, ah. But what we did do is that, we took some of these really important shots, and I want to talk about the courtroom scene, because it was only 9 shots. And I know you guys were struggling with the location. And so we were doing the green screen extension. We were really cleaning it up, making sure that it was getting in that period piece. But for us, as storytellers as well, it was really important to, even with the artists, with the student artists, to let them know, like, this is a pivotal scene in the film. This is really, really important. And it's important that these visual effects are seamless so that no one is distracted by a bad matte, and no one's distracted by bad roto or like a weird matte painting behind, because we need to keep them within the drama and the story that was unfolding in that scene. And so, and I knew it was really important. And I think Catherine and Mike, you can probably remember that day. I mean, you were online and Ivy was there, and I was like, okay, like we took 5 guys for those 9 shots. We took 5 guys that were, Ivy was like full up on the tents. Mike was on the crew, the troops, and we took a super duper team of 5 guys, and I brought them all together, and I was like, you guys, this is important, man. These are really important shots. Like, I hope we can get them done. Like, we have a really short deadline, but I need you guys to work really, really closely so that we can nail this and make it really beautiful. And it was great because they were kind of like, okay. And then they're like, yeah, we can do it. And they went off and they did it. And I'm just like, that scene, that sequence, those shots, I think we pulled them off, and I really feel like you don't get pulled out. I mean, I know where all the stuff is, and you guys do too, but I feel like when we watch that sequence now, you don't get pulled out of the drama.
I think that's really part of our whole mission statement is, we do seek out projects that have some sort of something important to say, and the work we do is not, like Transformers and Avengers, where like the visual effects are in your face. Like what I love about the films that we work on is that we really are helping you tell the story. We give the students contextual, they see the context of their work, and they see the sequences they work on together. And that's the most powerful part of this program is that, and they all want to work on Marvel films. I mean, let's be real, right? But they will, and they do. And I think they'll actually look back and realize the importance of the work that we're trying to do and the films we're trying to work on, and to work with people like you, and just let the storytelling process go forward.
I was going to say, I think that's one of the most important lessons to learn for visual effects, is that visual effects is always in service to the story. When the visual effects start to steal the stage, you've ruined a movie. And, that is just so critical. It was amazing to see it come together the way it did. I was just so glad I got to do it. And
I just want to mention Michael, though. I mean, let's be transparent. I mean, Michael came to our program, and he was a lighter at Industrial Light and Magic for many, many years. So I was so flattered that he wanted to learn compositing from us. And so he's been through production, and, but still, you appreciate the difference of working in sort of an assembly line like visual effects studio, which has its benefits, but being able to be more connected with the filmmakers, and Michael was also an online student. So we were doing Zoom, like Sasha, she's an online filmmaker, and she brought Zoom into our pipeline like years ago. So we feel like this whole environment is really easy to work, when we went through this year, this crazy year. I think we transitioned really, we're even better, I think, in some ways that we're working like this. We're in our element and working remotely. We still are making sure that we're communicating. Sasha has a film that she made that is beautiful, and she did it all online. I don't know, Sasha, if you want to say anything about it.
To just talk about their film.
Yeah, I'll keep it to that.
Well, no, I mean just the online process. That's what I mean. No, you don't want to? Okay, fine.
So I did have a question though, because it's something you mentioned, Catherine. So I'll just stick on the StudioX thing for just another moment. Okay. I know we have a lot of people who are interested in StudioX, so I will ask this. We know now the process of the students coming on set and even after the set and communicating back and forth and kind of proving that this, but how do you go about, you touched on a little bit, how do you go about picking which projects are appropriate for StudioX?
Well, we've been really lucky. And we've had 5 films that we worked on in Sundance. We worked on a film called Beasts of the Southern Wild that was an indie film that got nominated for 4 Academy Awards. We worked with Ryan Coogler. We were on set for Fruitvale Station when it was his first feature. And then obviously we know what happened to his career. So we've been lucky, but I think that it's just been years of networking and word of mouth. People seek us out actually and find us in the strangest places. We've had a few articles. We had a Wall Street Journal article. And I just want to mention though, when Sasha came in, it was kind of wild, wild west. We were working intersessions. We were working Christmas Day, and we were working New Year's Eve and birthdays. And, we needed to actually, because we started to grow so fast that it was getting out of control. So, I mean, I think that Sasha coming in and bringing some some, I guess, yang to my yin, or I don't know, just bringing in some structure and some boundaries have really changed things. Yeah, so
I have a question then for everyone, because it would apply to all of your roles, but I think it's going to probably go back to the script and be more something Kevin and Trai can speak to first.
It always goes to the script.
It always goes to the script. I mean, the story, as our visual effects people say, and I'm so glad they all know this so intrinsically. Yeah, it has to be the story that takes center stage. But you know, I picked up this. Speaking of stories and narratives, I picked up this really important theme from it that you know, we're all the product of stories, and there are people in the script, their characters who are being defined. Like, they don't necessarily, they're trying to define themselves, but society or other groups want to define their story or who they are for them. So, Kevin, I'll start with you, since you've worked on historical drama, biopics, documentaries, even alternate reality stories. What is the responsibility that creators have in representing these kind of narratives that have struggle to them and have these kind of nuance to them?
Well, you know, there's a big responsibility there. And first off, when you're dealing with history, you want to be responsible to the people you're representing. You want, you know, Trai and I worked really hard to not make choices that were not based in some kind of connection to reality, to the real story. You know, obviously it's a drama. We have to, you know, it's a movie, we've got to entertain folks. But we didn't want to just do anything we just want to do. I mean, we always went back to the reality of the story as much as we could to pull choices from. And I think then the other thing is that, you know, you're also responsible for the message that is coming out of this. And that's, you know, it's interesting because I love what Sasha and you know, Michael and Catherine was saying about, you know, all of this, because if, like in the courtroom scene, if those effects aren't great, then you're going to be distracted from Trai, you know, and this is Trai's moment in the movie, and you know, and it's the moment, it's the message of the film, and it's everything's relying upon this scene not being distracting. And I tell my students all the time, you know, once the audience leaves the film, you don't get them back. Once something pulls you out of the movie, you're done. It's done. You can't really get them back. I mean, they come back to the movie, but they're not the same when they come back. And so, you know, so it's the combination of all those things that really make it successful, you know, make it work.
You know, it's interesting from my perspective, outside of everything that Kevin just said beautifully, being an actor as well, and the kind of actor you choose to be is up to you. For me in particular, no matter who I'm playing, it's important to get down to the core of the identity, and that's not without struggle. So much like everybody in the world, you know, whether they're, you know, historical or you know, fictitious, at the end of the day, fiction, nonfiction, at the end of the day, you're growing through something and you're growing to something. And as an actor, it's much more visceral because I'm in action versus writing it down. And for me, because it's so important that the character grow through their fear, or face, you know, whatever moment stands between them and, you know, their best self or their worst self. It's really important to be as honest as possible in the whittling away, and the you know, what does this person need to say? How does he need to say it? Does he just say it, or does he, you know, kind of beat around the bush? Is he a physical person? You know, who does he need to say it to? And, you know, I think all of those elements as well, from the actor's perspective, help me in kind of mining for the gold for my part anyway, in the script as we were, you know, expanding the stories of some of the characters. So, you know, the acting background helped me a lot, helps me to remember the importance of it because I'm going to have to do it. You know, you want to help yourself out as much as possible, but you also want to be as honest as possible. Yeah.
How about in any other roles? I mean, this was a story obviously that has great importance for what's going on today. Just in anyone's role as, you know, producer, cinematographer, what were some of the things that, if you work on this film or a project like that, what are some things that filmmakers should keep in mind to honor the kind of sensitive nature of what's being told?
I mean, it's, you know, you have to hire the right people to bring all those elements and be able to have the talent to do that. When we looked at a lot of different cameramen, and we chose Brett because of his work and his attitude, and everything about him fit. And same thing with the production designer, and same thing with our costume designer. I mean, our costume designer did several films in the same genre, same era, and he nailed it because he knew already. He knew the story. He was one of the only people that we talked to who actually knew the story already and had read a book about it. So if you find the right people, they're going to help do all that work and help you be honest and tell the truth about what you're doing. They wouldn't want Jonathan, our production designer. He was asked to do something with a material. He came in with the budget, and we always have problems with production designers and their budgets because they always want to build everything and make everything. It's always going to be a battle. But in his case, one thing we were talking about the tents, and he refused to make them out of any other material than they would have been made out of. He wanted them to be authentic, and he said,
I remember that.
You can't make them out of anything but the material that they would have been made out of. And everyone will see that and they'll know it, and particularly those who really care about it. And it just, that kind of authenticity, you know, was carried out throughout the entire art department. And it shows up on the film. So, I mean, the responsibility is to try to bring those kind of people. You bring someone who doesn't have that experience, they may not have the ability to bring that detail, and that wouldn't be as synergistic.
And and it seems like everybody on this film did care, even the people that you don't know, but you guys do know, even Red Thread and Jeff Ertz, who, you know, was very seamless with all of the deadlines and the problems and putting it together, trying to fit it all together. And we were lucky. I mean, I think honestly, this post-production party, doing it in New York, I thought it really worked out well. You know, we were lucky because it was family. My sister was part of it, so it was good. Right. I know, Alexander, you weren't sure
by the way,
first when you got there, you know. Yeah.
No, I want to say that as well, because it's not a post-production house that normally handles that many movies.
Right.
It's not what they do. And again, it was very worrisome. And but we took a leap of faith again because passion spoke for it. Tony, I knew would protect us, take care of it, oversee it. And it was an incredible experience. Again, it was 24/7. It was incredible dedication, incredible team, and a speed of and an incredible facility. Honestly, you know, I work with a lot of big studios, and I know Pat and Tony too, and it's hard to get the studios or the big budget financiers to deviate from what they know and the same team. So it was really refreshing that we were encouraged and pushed to take risks. And if it wasn't for Pat and Tony both saying, "Don't worry, just jump in us, we'll swim," I was like, "We gotta drown." They're like, "We'll survive." Well, and it was fun because we were all in it together, and it was a big family, as Kevin said. It was the pain and emotionally what the actors all brought to the set. They were so prepared, they were so passionate. There was such an amazing, not only brotherhood between the actors, but what Asia Naomi King brought to the set as well, the purity, the romance. Trai brought, Brandy, his sister. There was so much love around to everybody, went above what their title, if you want, or what their job was supposed to be. And everybody helped in every department where they could. So that's what was so great. Like when we need second unit, Tony jumped in right away. It was just so great to see, all of it coming together. It was fun. I miss it. We all miss each other.
It was fun. I remember one Sunday, Trai was practicing the dancing in the parking lot of the hotel. It was just like every minute was being used, and it was all those little things made it such a big difference. That scene, I remember, Trai, you were really, really immersing yourself, and you were concerned about that, and it was great.
I did the best I could. I don't have the best dancing legs.
Well, I gotta say there's another element, is that the choreographer, she really did a great job, and I don't know if in one of the reviewers pointed that scene out and talked about how great it was in the movie, and it is a great scene in the movie, and that was the choreographer gave us all these different pieces to look at. She did that remote. You guys chose the right one, and it turned out to be it's a really lovely scene amidst this incredibly painful film, and it's full of visual effects shots.
That's right.
It is
stuff we had to remove. Which is, I want to shout out David Prindle, who did the shots you guys didn't do. He did a lot of the little smaller shots, the removals and wire removals and things like that. You guys did the big composite shots and the 3D shots, because we came up with a 213 shot list, and you said, hey, we only work so long. We got to whittle it down. You guys ended up doing the 33 most complex shots, and they're the big shots in the film anyway. The only one that I would say that you didn't do, which was a simple composite that David came up with in the end, was he took our Main Street Houston that we kind of tried to do, and he added signage and put a cityscape, and faded atmospheric cityscape in the background, and that shot now just really sings, and it's beautiful, and it was a cool shot, and that came in. He did that in the 11th hour. That was like one of the last shots he did. It was really great. And
so before I have some questions from the audience now. If you guys are ready, we can use some of our time for that. And I see some of you have been answering them, so that's cool. I like this one because it's from a fellow editor, so I'm going to, of course, go with that one first. I'm an editor, so I want to ask about how the VFX department communicates with the editor. Now, a lot of times it's through producers or even to the director, so maybe you guys can speak to that while the editing is happening and these shots are happening. How does that look?
Well, I know that during the editing process, there were things that we discovered that I didn't even notice before. Additional special effects needs that we had not even noticed. Really. Deep background things that we saw in the shot that I didn't see on the set for whatever reason. And so that was a big one. I mean, there's a lot of little discoveries you make in the editing process that really we had to send all of that new, those new needs, those new requirements, additions to the special effects folks, and that was already on top of a list that was way too damn long. So we just kept adding in. Here's some more for you. So it was again, they just did such a great job of not freaking out with all this additional discoveries that we would make. And I think that's a big part of the editing process when it comes to special effects, is that you find required things, and then you also discover things that would be great if you can do them. You discover things, oh, wouldn't this be great if we did this? Wouldn't this be great if we, this would be a nice addition here. And so that, and they did all of it. They did.
We have a special category for that, Kevin. It's called CBB.
What do you guys call that?
Yeah, CBB, could be better.
It's called kill the damn director, right?
I also want to mention, and maybe Sasha could speak more to this, but we do need to have a relationship with the editor, because we have to have our parts of the film cut in properly to the rest of the film. So we always like to have access to the editor before we get the work in, and during the work and after. Sometimes we'll do testing with the editor to make sure our shots are okay. And there's a lot of technical stuff that happens when you're pulling stuff into a VFX pipeline and out, and we just have to make sure it's seamless. So it's a very important relationship for us.
I mean, the biggest issue I would say is, until the very last minute, you don't know what scenes are going to stay in the movie, because there's many different cuts. And so you don't want the time, the money, you don't want you want all the energy spent on shots that ultimately you're not going to use. So it's the balance. That communication is very important, because it obviously starts with the director and the editor, and then the producers and the financier, and everybody has to be in sync at all time. But it really starts obviously with the director making sure that his vision is protected, that the scenes or shots he wants are there, and us producers making sure that we can deliver it all in the time frame that we have to deliver the movie, but also in a running time that doesn't exceed 2 hours. There's a lot at stake, so it's a really complicated game of balancing speed, making sure effects are still moving forward, and yet knowing you're going to lose a lot of them.
Yeah, and the post supervisor is important. They're like the in-between person that was juggling everything too. It was great, especially the time.
We had a good editing team, and they all were very communicative. The assistant editors do a lot of that connection with the effects house, because they have to deliver you the materials and get you the files you need, and they're the ones who end up getting it back and putting it in. And
yeah, we're in constant communication. I mean, with editorial, I mean, you guys know, like, as soon as you guys started to edit, we were already talking and looking at rough cuts with you, and you guys were doing the spotting sessions in terms of the VFX. And then always the hardest part, and I know Pat and I were kind of back and forth on the open shot with the troops coming in, and like how long that shot was going to be. And
you were always right. They no longer march in; they're stopped. So you were correct that it was going to be about the same length as the one we were giving you.
But it's also too, like, just, I mean, both Pat and I, as we were doing that, and Kevin, you were in editorial, and Trai, you guys were, in it creatively. But for us, it's like, we need to get the plate to work on it, but we also don't want to rush you, so that you're like, sit with the film and your pacing is right and your timing's right. Because if there's the timing changes on any of the shots, it's like almost like we kind of have to redo it. And so it's always that little balance of, giving you guys the space, and then us just like, plates, we need plates. So that's always the fun part with editorial. But yeah, your assistant editors were amazing. I can't remember his name, unfortunately, right now, but I know I was talking to him consistently throughout the process.
They were both called Brian.
Brian. I was going to say it. Brian, they're Brians.
So two Brians.
Yeah, the Brian. So, yes. We were constantly doing the in and out, making sure that the shots were looking good at all stages and all of that. So it's a very close relationship for sure.
Here's a question from the chat. It says, for the VFX team, but let's start with our two compositors here. What scene, or we'll say shot, are you most proud of?
That's like asking me to pick my favorite child. I don't know. Ivy had some amazing tent shots. There was lots to be proud of there for her, but I don't know, those, we talked about them earlier, the crane shots that I was working on. I loved them. It was, yes, I still have some bald spots from trying to get those shots finished, but it was an incredible learning experience, and I was just so excited to see what the final product came out looking like. But I mean, I was probably more impressed by the work I was seeing coming out from some of the other artists. What about you, Ivy?
Yeah, I have seen lots of like other students. They got like a tent and then so many soldiers passing by, and then they do tons of roto. And also, I think it's challenging and also important to like communicate with other students, because so many students work on different shots, and then it's not only 10 need to look good in your shot, like they all need to be similar and like all the same in every shot, not like this 10 looks color in other shot, the 10's color is different. So yeah, I think the important thing is like make sure everybody talking to each other, and then make sure the shot is going well, and just the communication is important to
communication and
this kind of things.
And the consistency across. You can see that it gets consistent all across. We have Adam Liu here as well, who's so appropriate. I just asked this question, or rather the chat asked this question. Adam, Adam was also part of the VFX team. Did you have a favorite shot?
The shot I got is remove the door. And I think the
courtroom, in the courtroom.
The most important thing is the communication with the classmates and with the team, because we all do the same thing. So we have to share the map painting and what we do, and we share that information and make the whole thing like the same. Yeah, so I think the most important thing is the communication and the cooperation.
And in those shots that you did, Adam, I remember again in the approval process at 11 o'clock at night, but Kevin in Kansas and me in California, we would be saying one shot looks a little bit different than the other, and we were trying to get that balance, and it took a long time. It was tricky. But you guys did a great job of making it work.
I was going to say, with those shots, the best visual effects shots are the ones you don't see. You did your job right when nobody notices that it was there. And I think those guys should be, Adam, you and the others that worked on them should be very proud, because there was some difficult stuff getting that to work out and getting them to all look the same. And I remember listening in dailies to the constant rounds of discussions, and it was impressive.
Here's a question from the chat. I think I'm going to simplify it, but it's actually interesting to me too. Kevin, did you work with storyboards in this one, or in the pre-production?
No, not really. I mean, there were certain things that I had a general idea, what I wanted them to look like, because we had to discover these sets, really, to discover these locations, and we were still a few locations, a couple of days before we shot the scene, and that doesn't bother me. That's a great that's all part of the process for me, and I kind of welcome that. But when you write the script, you kind of know what it looks like in your head, and that was one of the advantages for me in the film. With this film, I've known what it looks like in my head for a very long time, and so when we were were discovering sets and finding sets, and we found the great Air Force location, old Air Base location, and we were building things very quickly. All of that was great, because I could just quickly kind of adjust the look that I was going for with the locations as they started to develop.
We did use storyboards. That actually helped us decide not to do a different ending.
We had storyboards for 2 different scenes, which didn't end up even getting shot. because it was terribly complicated. I remember going through storyboards.
Yeah, which ones were they again?
Yeah.
Which ones?
It was
the
one.
The other ending. The other.
The other ending. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. They involved more like, I mean, it was a big conversation between, were we going to lean into practical effects or visual effects? How can we accomplish a car driving towards soldiers being shot at?
Right.
Like there was a lot. It was very, very complicated. Not impossible, but on our time, it was on the same night as two other very big important scenes, so they were very, very difficult to accomplish. And we knew that by storyboarding it, but like once we started storyboarding and discussing the logistics of it, we all realized that it was going to be nearly impossible to accomplish given our circumstances. But also storyboarding was, I think, also a little difficult on this too, because we worked mostly off of a shot list. But sort of to my point earlier, where you only saw a quarter of that location that we were shooting at, that airfield. And also a lot of the reason why you don't see it is because we're trying to avoid it at all costs. So a lot of the shots, if this movie every shot could have been a visual effects shot, because we were just dealing with, a very small portion of what we could actually look at without having to need VFX to help it out. So a lot of the shooting of it was just cheating angles and cheating so that we, half the time we're looking over, part of the airfield that we can't actually see because it's not part of our, or like actually cheating a full turnaround and like cheating one way and barely turning around to cheat the reverse. So and also, the way that, I like to work, and I think everyone likes to work as well, is there, marks exist in a sense, but also like the more you can get, the talent and the performances to be organic and not have to worry about hitting a mark, or, you go in on the day and you rehearse it and you see what happens. You kind of see how naturally the scene works out. And then you try to figure out how to best accomplish that. Some scenes require a lot more planning, like when we're in the town and we could only see certain buildings. Like there was one building you could look at. If you turned around, you were looking at something completely different, modern or a completely different scene. Actually, one of our scenes, the stabbing and the police station were literally right next to each other. Like if you were looking at the stabbing, you were looking at the police station. If you're looking at the police station, you were looking at the stabbing. And they're actually in each other's scenes, but you don't realize it because we had to sort of figure out how to like shoot it so you don't really recognize. It's sort of the same point as like, the VFX taking you out of it. Like we had to sort of cheat things. But also like to that point, like when we were scouting and we were there with everybody, we were standing there saying, well, we can't look that way because that's the police station. We can't look that way because that's obviously like a 7-Eleven if we're looking that. So, and then it was like, well, will VFX help that shot? Will a small paint out, fix that? Will that change that? Or do we stick a hay bale in front of that thing and call it a day? And that was, sometimes we did that, and sometimes we stuck a horse in front of the thing, like a modern thing, and sometimes we painted it up. So storyboards were really, really difficult because we couldn't really be that specific until we were there looking at it. And so that's sort of, that's, I mean,
we did that a lot in the second unit stuff. Like you had the main crew over shooting, and then Tony and I were shooting some pickup shots, and then the honey wagon was in the background, and so we just parked one of the old cars in front of it, and then on the other side we can see you overshooting the rest of the crew. So we put a bunch of horses there and just hit everything. I would love
to have a quarter for the amount of times VFX artists have to paint out the honey wagons and the right. Because I promise you, every time I walk on set, you are looking in the direction of where they parked the porta potty, and they're going to clean it out. Promise you that.
So it is about time to wrap up, but I want to ask one more question from the chat, and that is pretty much, it could be what you were just talking about. What was the biggest logistical hurdle during production? Can you guys pick one?
Yeah, right.
I think it was, to me, it was the period aspect.
Yeah.
Just always being honest true to the period. That was some of the things that Brett just said. I don't know about you, what you thought.
That and time. Not enough.
Time, yeah. Time.
Yeah.
Because you always see something and you think, oh, if I had more time, I could redo that or do it better.
Yes.
Always.
And that would be probably ring true with Trai, because always wanting to, there would be more takes that we'd want to do, and we wouldn't have exactly the right time sometimes.
Well, and also, like even Trai, when we were doing you running with the horses, you said I have one in me, one more, and that was because of time and just the amount of energy you had to act. It was tough. There's stuff like that,
Great shot.
No time to prep.
And the heat and the humidity there just made everything like 10 times more difficult.
But it made it look so good, though.
Yes, it did.
But it was no time to shoot, no time to prep, and so it's the combo of all that was really intense.
I remember Brett with that. Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead, Pat.
No, I'm done.
I was just reminding Brett that last night, and we were doing the riot scene, and literally, we just kind of ran out of time. It was like the sun was coming up, and there was still a couple of shots we wanted to get, but it was just like, that's all we got. So
it's over. It's over.
Yeah.
It's it.
Yeah, it's over. So,
it's slightly,
we would have kept shooting.
We would have kept shooting,
It's a difficult, it's a difficult position to be in when, you could, on those nights, you definitely feel every single second passing you by as you're shooting, and you're looking at the rest of the day and what you want to get. And that night was definitely one of the hardest nights I've had.
I think it was.
It was a marathon.
It was a marathon. Yes, it was.
It was a sprint and a marathon.
And it worked out a
marathon sprinting. So it was terrible. And it was our last night. So you want to wrap the movie on on a real jovial, like, we accomplished this.
Yeah, and we were all exhausted.
And we were exhausted. We were exhausted.
The sun.
It's 5 a.m, right?
Yeah. Totally.
I remember it was like, this is it. It's over. It's like.
But I think that the difficult things about this movie were not a surprise to anybody walking into it. I think we were all very aware of what we were up against, and it takes a story like this to really believe in being able to accomplish it. And looking, a period film of this size is difficult. There's no question about it. But these stories also, these scripts don't come around all the time. And when you get a script like this with everybody involved, it really it makes it totally worth it. It's very difficult. It's a bit of a love-hate relationship for sure, but you can see that everyone's still smiling, which is a very good thing, except Pat. Sometimes I can't tell. But but everyone still has a smile. It's like camp. It's like bonding. But I think that it was difficult, but definitely worth it.
This is like a high school reunion. It's great.
It really is.
Well, yeah, I was just gonna say, you know,
We
you
forget
guys-
all the pain now.
you all went through this experience you're describing together, so you've got this. Maybe get your own kind of insignia to wear for life.
And we didn't get to do our film festival panel, so thank you for this.
Well, we are so happy to feature this film. It is, I mean, in addition to our students working on it, I mean, everyone watching this needs to know this is a film you have to keep, you know, on your shelf. Like, it's something that you need to watch. It is incredible. It's really speaks to not just 1917, but today. And sadly, it speaks to today, but it's true. And so the performances of everyone in the film, and Trai, especially as the lead, just takes it away. Just, it's amazing. And Kevin, this is up there with all of your work. Everybody did a great job. The visual effects people did a great job. Where can people watch it?
So Amazon Prime for sure.
Yes.
And then, you know, there's many different, it kept moving around. Sorry. Yeah, iTunes. I think Vivo.
YouTube.
Yeah.
Posted it in the chat. We've just posted it in the chat.
Google Play.
Great.
Voodoo.
Cool.
Voodoo.
Go find it.
I want to shout out your 3D artists. They did a fantastic job. The gate to Camp Logan, the entrance to Camp Logan is outstanding, and the oil derrick is outstanding. They did just fantastic work, and they did it in a short period of time.
Jason supervising, yeah.
Amazing.
I got to tell you, there's a little thing about the gate. There's a you know, someone asked me about. There's a little sign in the actual that the gate is based on, and there's this little sign in the corner of the gate. And it's a sign about about the pandemic of 1918. And
my God!
It's a warning. It's a warning about coming onto the base about the pandemic of 1918. And they, when they asked me about that, I looked at it really close, and I don't think I would have known what it said if we weren't going through this pandemic now.
Wow.
Because it was really hard to read, but then they reproduced that. So when you look at that sign, you'll see it's about the pandemic.
Yeah, that was Chan who did that. Chan Wu.
Yeah, that was great.
Well, Chan did a fantastic job, and you guys did stuff in the 11th hour. You added other elements, and I mean, it's really fine work.
It's all the more impressive, everything you guys did, considering the short amount of time and budget and the constraints. I mean, it makes, we tell our students all the time, that forces you to be more creative. So seriously, thank you for this amazing piece of art. And thank you to all the artists for putting your creative perspective and contribution into it. It's amazing.
And I just have to shout out to Will. You did an amazing job moderating this event, and to Becky Johnson, who's behind the scenes doing a lot of the marketing and organization for the event. Scott and all the team that brought this Zoom session, and the marketing team are here too, who brought this Zoom session, you know, and did all this work behind the scenes. I just wanted to give them a shout out. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you all.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you all. It's
See
so
you
great
guys.
to meet all of you.
Good to see you, Trai. Brett.
Take care.
Bye, guys. Bye.
Tony.
Take care.